Good morning, everybody. My name is Philippe Coene. I'm the General Manager of BEMVO, the Belgian Medicine Verification Organization. Dear organizers, thank you for inviting me to this wonderful city, to this wonderful country. It's the first time that I've been here, and for me it was a very nice experience, only getting here. I'm going to try not to repeat what my colleague Philippe has already told you on the Belgian situation. We didn't see each other's presentations because of his holiday, so I made my own presentation, but I will adapt it to what Philippe already mentioned. Myself, I'm already working in the field of EU FMD since 2009, so that's a very long time. Actually, I have been working for a company that was preparing for the EU FMD implementation in Europe and had developed a system that was going to compete with the Arvato and the SolidSoft system, but unfortunately didn't make the final decision steps. But I was fortunate to have that experience already for 10 years before the regulation came into place. First, I would like to mention that Belgium has about 11.5 million inhabitants, so about half of the population of Romania, and that we have about 4,500 pharmacists, in total about 5,000 end users, included hospitals and wholesalers. So we have to deal with 5,000 people, organizations connecting to our system. We are not only running the system in Belgium, but we are also running it in Luxembourg. So we are a two-company organization. So all medicines that are dispensed in Luxembourg are checked, are verified in the Belgian NMVS. That's the reason why I included a special flag on my first slide. The flag doesn't exist, but it's half Belgian and half Luxembourg. In Belgium, we are already verifying medicines since 2002. So that's a very long time that pharmacists are already scanning every medicine they are dispensing to a patient. Since 2002, there is an obligation in Belgium to verify products with a unique code, and the purpose was not to act against counterfeits, but to battle fraud, reimbursement fraud. So the Belgian authorities, reimbursement authorities, suspected that there was some fraud going on, pharmacists that were charging 2 times the same product to the reimbursement authorities, and that's why they wanted to have a unique identifier on a box. Pharmacists have to scan it, and each month they have to submit their scans to the reimbursement authorities to check if there are no double reimbursements going on. So that's the reason why there's already scanning going on since 2002, and that pharmacists really were used to scan each product that they were dispensing. So we were in an advantageous position when the EU FMD regulation came into place. Still, the moment, that was also the reason why Belgium had the opportunity, the chance to postpone the implementation of the EU FMD for 6 years, like also Greece and Italy. But the Belgian authorities didn't want to use that special measure because they found that it was important that the verification was also done to battle counterfeits, and the verification that was done in Belgium, as in fact also in Italy and in Greece, had not the purpose to fight counterfeits and was not designed to fight counterfeits. So that was the reason why Belgium decided that they should go immediately with the implementation. As my colleague Philippe mentioned, at first there were still a lot of false alerts because of double scans, because of batches that were not properly downloaded. And from the beginning, our NCA decided that we would only go to a full implementation when we reached the target of 0.05% of alert rate. And that happened last year, and that's the reason why we have now done a full implementation since the 9th of February. 100% of our end users are connected, so all pharmacists are using the verification system, all hospitals are connected and using the system, and all wholesalers are connected and using the system, as well in Belgium as in Luxembourg. There's a very high involvement of our NCA for this, and in fact we are meeting with our NCA and our NCA inspectors every 2 weeks. So there's every 2 weeks a meeting between my management and the NCA to see how things are progressing. And the inspectors are present during that meeting, so that really is very advantageous in getting things under control. What do we mean with a full implementation? We mean with a full implementation that the pharmacist, the end user, is obliged to keep a product in quarantine when there is an alert. That was not the case before the 9th of February, that's the case now. Before the 9th of February, it was the responsibility entirely of the pharmacist to decide when he got an alert on the screen to dispense yes or no. If he decided that there was no reason for thinking it was a falsification, then he was not forced to report on the alert and he could just dispense. Now the pharmacist, the end user, needs to report on each alert. Doesn't mean, therefore, that he immediately needs to keep the product in quarantine, but he will have the obligation to report on the alert. In that report, he needs to mention that he has investigated the alert, he needs to mention that the reason of the alert and how he resolved the alert. Also important to mention is that in Belgium, we are using the system fully for recalls and withdrawals. Doesn't mean that we are fully depending on the system for recalls and withdrawals. There is a separate system for recalls and withdrawals in Belgium and Luxembourg, but it's a double security. Every recall and every withdrawal, when it's for the full market and for the entire product, then the recall and the withdrawal is put on the NMBS system. We check that. If we see that a marketing authorization holder fails to put a recall on the system, then we contact the marketing authorization holder and ask him to do so. So, going a bit into the details, I've prepared a report for you, and it is a report that handles on 1 week, from the week from 4th to the 11th of March. Why that week? Because then we were for 1 month into the full implementation, and we also have some time to cover the alerts after that week, so we can tell you how alerts were being handled during that week. During that week, there were 4,518 active pharmacists on the system, meaning that there were scans of the pharmacist in the system. And we see that one pharmacist had more than 50 alerts. One pharmacist represents 0.02% of the total of pharmacists, but it was a pharmacist that had an incident and raised a lot of alerts during that week. We had 12 pharmacists with more than 10 alerts, 32 pharmacists with more than 5 alerts, 169 pharmacists with more than 1 alert, 346 pharmacists with 1 alert. But very important to mention is that we had 3,958 pharmacists, so 88% of our pharmacists that had 0 alerts during that week. And here you see in more details how we handled those alerts. So on the 4th of March, in total there were 388 alerts. So on average we have about 350 alerts a day on the total market of Belgium and Luxembourg. And we managed to close about 60% of those alerts today. All alerts are closed by BEMVO, by the NMVO. So we don't allow end users to close alerts, we don't allow marketing authorization holders to close alerts. They should treat the alerts, but the final decision if an alert can be closed, we keep that for ourselves, if we keep that to the NMVO. If we decide that we can't close an alert, then the alert is escalated to the NCA. But that's only in very rare cases that we cannot take that decision. So for the week of the 4th of March, we had 560 pharmacists with alerts, and of those 560 pharmacists with alerts, 305 pharmacists were treating these alerts. Is that good? Is that bad? I think for being into the full implementation since only a month, that this is already a very good result of having 305 pharmacists, so more than half of the pharmacists treating their alerts. And if you ask us the question, when will you reach 100%? I don't think we will ever reach 100%, but my ambition is that within 1 year we will reach 95% of pharmacists treating the alerts, and then it will be up to the NCA to visit the rest of those pharmacists who are not complying. So I made the same picture for the hospitals, the wholesaler and the distributors. Hospitals, wholesalers and distributors cause more alerts in bulk. Pharmacists, they verify each individual pack, but the wholesaler often does a bulk export or bulk verification or bulk decommissioning. And if there's one batch where there is an error, then suddenly that causes a lot of alerts. But also it's easier to manage those alerts, because if you can close one of those alerts, you can immediately close a lot of those alerts. So in generally, the closure of of alerts in hospitals, wholesalers and distributors is much higher than with the pharmacies, because of those bulk treatments. So I think this has been mentioned by Philippe on how we treat, or what we ask from an end user on how to handle an alert. I can summarize it in saying that the pharmacist, when he sees an alert on his screen, he needs to pay attention on the alert. He needs to investigate if what he scans is the same on what's on the box. If that's different, then it's a technical alert. Then it's a scanner who has malfunctioned, and then he should redo the scan or should do a manual entry. If he doesn't get an alert anymore, then he can dispense. That's obvious, then he doesn't need to keep the product in quarantine. But it's still hard to convince pharmacists to pay attention to the alert at the moment that he scans. And it's still not always the case that in every software the alert comes immediately after the scan. So we have still, unfortunately, a little bit of work to do at the software level, the software supplier level, to have a better implementation of his EUFMD solution. That will be the main factor of reducing number of alerts, but also in getting more alerts treated. If the pharmacist sees that the product, what he scans is also on the box, then most likely it's an error at the side of the marketing authorization holder, and then he needs to keep the product in quarantine. Then we ask him to keep the product in quarantine, and then it's the NMVO who asks the marketing authorization holder to handle the alert. Normally the marketing authorization holder is already treating all alerts through his alert management system, but we see, certainly for smaller companies, that that's not always the case. So whenever there's a verification to be done by the marketing authorization holder, our system sends an email to the responsible person of the marketing authorization holder to ask, can you please verify that that batch is properly uploaded, and recommend on the next action steps. Things are moving very fast, and so this slide is not completely up to date. We don't allow pharmacists and marketing authorization holders to close alerts, which is on this slide, so that's not correct. That was our first idea, that when a pharmacist checks and everything is okay, that he would be able to close the alert. Unfortunately or not, our NMVS alert system doesn't allow that, technically, so pharmacists cannot close an alert. But at the end, we thought also that it was better not to allow pharmacists to close alerts and to keep that controlled by the NMVO. So that's what I explained. We can move to the next slide. When do we escalate? It's really like Philippe de Buc said, in rare cases that we escalate if we can't find a solution ourselves. On average, we need to contact our NCA, I think about 2 or 3 times a week. Not always to really request action from them, but to use them as a leverage for or an MIH or a pharmacist to act quicker on an alert. We didn't ask yet since this month, since the month that we are operating a full implementation, we didn't ask derogations from the NCA, meaning that the that the NCA would allow an exception on the UFMD implementation for a certain batch or a certain product. So until now that has not been necessary. We had planned to escalate alerts within 5 working days when an alert was not treated. For the moment we are only escalating after 3 weeks because it sometimes requires some time for the marketing authorization holder to respond. Not all end users are responding immediately. In order not to have too much escalations, we have set this now on 3 weeks, which is for the moment more workable, but our ambition is to shorten that period. And this is the end of my presentation. I'm sure that there will be questions. Please ask them.
Philippe, if I may, one question from me. It is at the very beginning, but in average, for how long a box can stay in the quarantine until the alert is resolved?
What we see is that a marketing authorization holder, when we ask him a question, he normally responds within 24 hours. So most of our alerts where the product has not been properly charged, within 24 hours the marketing authorization holder has responded, and or with a message that the product should be brought back, or with the message that he has now downloaded correctly the information in the EU hub and that the pharmacist can do a new verification. It's very seldom that we have to wait more than a day. It happens, unfortunately, that it takes a week. This is a very long time for the pharmacist, and we try to put as much pressure on the marketing authorization holder as possible with the help of the RNCA to have a fast response of the marketing authorization holder. In the case of that the pharmacist made an error, when the pharmacist has a scanner, had a scanner issue, when there's a double decommissioning and we need to verify in the system where the product has first been decommissioned or what happened. There I can tell you that when there is a response required from the NMVO, that we respond on each alert also within 24 hours, 7 days a week. So I'm handling my alerts on Saturdays and Sundays. So I spent an hour on Saturday and an hour on Sunday personally to treat those alerts so that the pharmacist never has to wait more than 24 hours to put a product out of quarantine.
Well, good for you. Thank you. Oh, next.
I just had a very, very short question about the size of the Belgian market, because you said something about your colleagues calling the NCA 2 or 3 times per week. I just wanted to know what to expect. I just wanted to foresee how often I will be called by Laurențiu, if this is happening also in Romania. So,
okay. Good. I don't know exactly by heart what the alert rate is in Romania, but our market is about half of the Romanian market. Here, if I see the number of pharmacists and the number of inhabitants, I estimate that our market is about half of the Romanian market.
So I have to expect something like 4 to 6 times per week from your side, yeah?